What was it like the day you sold the company, the wire cleared, and you had that money in your account? What did that feel like from being a young man who once had a dream? That moment you saw the numbers in the bank account.
We're in Monaco, we're staying at the Fairmont, so we go to this restaurant and I keep stepping away for 1 hour. I keep stepping away for 30 minutes. And then eventually the deal is done, the announcement is made, very emotional, a lot of crying. This was a real check.
Patrick Bet David, the best content for entrepreneurs.
Author, content creator, and founder of Valuetainment.
Patrick Bet David.
In success, there's 4 things. Outwork, which a lot of people do, but for periods of time. Out-improve, out-strategize. You know what the last one is?
Has God always played a big role in your life?
The moment I figured out he was playing a big role in my life, yes. When I was 25 years old, an atheist for 25 years, and then I had that one event with my mom one day when she calls me out of the blue at 2:30 in the morning, 30 minutes after I broke up with my girlfriend and we're in a bad situation. I'm in debt $49,000. I'm sitting in my expedition. I'm about to re-enlist back into the Army. I'm at the lowest point of my life, and I tell God I want to hear from my mom, and my phone rings, which she doesn't have the number, and I pick up. I'm like, what are you doing? She's crying, saying, I felt like my son needed it. I said, how'd you get my number?
Now, with Andrew Tate, was there anything surprising that stuck out that maybe you didn't expect about him?
Once the camera was off, he shared a few things that he opened up with.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode on the Passionate Few podcast. Today we have a special one as we have a round 2 with none other than everybody's favorite entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and founder of Valuetainment, none other than Patrick Bet David. Thanks so much for being on the show again, boss.
To be with you again.
Yes, sir. I know the first time we interviewed you were in California.
Yes.
Now we're here on the East Coast in Florida at your beautiful studio, man. So thanks for having us here.
Anytime.
So I want to get right into it, man. A lot of people know about your recent exit of your company, and I know you do a lot of things in business and you're big on social media. But I got to ask you this first question. What was it like the day you sold the company, the wire cleared, and you had that money in your account? What did that feel like from being a young man who once had a dream to that moment you saw the numbers in the bank account?
So that's interesting you're asking that question, because we're in Monaco. We're taking a couple hundred guys in Monaco. We're staying at the Fairmont. So everybody is trying to have a good time. People have no clue we're closing the company, the deal. So we go to this restaurant called Le Louis, which is like the main restaurant, 3 Michelin star, right next to the casino, on the strip. You know, it's only 5 tables or 10 tables, and you're eating this food. It's a 3, 4, 5 hour, dinner that you're having. And I keep stepping away for 1 hour. I keep stepping away for 30 minutes. They're like, why is Pat stepping away? But I can't tell them why I'm stepping away, because we're going through it right now. And then eventually the deal is done. The announcement is made. And my wife and I go to have breakfast together at this one place in Monaco, which is like 7-minute walk from the hotel we're staying at. And I'm sitting right in front of her at this regular, French breakfast spot that nobody knows. And we're just talking. And it was 3 hours of the most unique smile that we both had on our faces. Very emotional, a lot of crying, a lot of laughing, a lot of genuine respect and gratitude for each other to have done what we've done. Then there was a different moment with our sales leaders on what they did to help the company get to where it was, because we would never be without them. The people that were in that meeting, they know how that meeting went. Incredible, another emotional meeting. And recognizing what Tom did to help the deal go from beginning to the end. But when the money hits the bank and Goldman Sachs calls you, and he says, hey, the money shows the account. I mean, listen, I've gotten $10,000 checks. I've gotten $100,000 checks. I've gotten $1 million checks. I've gotten $10 million checks. I've gotten $50 million checks. This was a real check, at an incredible time. And more importantly, to do it with a company where the guy at the top of that company is the biggest heavyweight in the insurance industry doing what he's doing. Bryant with IMG, it was a great partnership. We had some of the biggest private equity companies that their names, that the deal was pretty much done with one of them, one of the top 10 biggest. Everyone knows who it is. We met in Miami. Deal's getting done. I get a call saying, hey, before you finalize the deal, are you willing to meet with these other guys? They want to meet with you. I said, I've already met with them multiple times. Says, are you willing to do dinner? Sure. They come out. We go to Casa D'Angelo for dinner. A 2-hour dinner turns into a 5-hour dinner. We get in the car. It's me, Tom, our guys from Houlihan Lokey. He says, what do you think? I said, man, this is tough because I love this guy. I think this is a good fit for everybody. I think we win. I think they win. I think our guys win. clients when everybody wins. Then we went back. Then the offer was made. Then we finalized the offer, and we all agreed.
Figure exit.
Yes, multi 9-figure exit. Yes, and yeah, the rest is history. And then obviously we are where we are today.
What's the first thing you guys did when the check cleared? You saw the money.
Like buy, or
Buy. Say to your wife. Feel that day. Take that moment.
you know, for me, I'm all about. I want, like, the moment I realize I can compete in something, and then you go through the anxiety of, now you know you can compete in this area. How big do you want to go? It's a very interesting one-on-one moment you'll have with yourself. Like when I was first selling insurance, I had no idea how good I could be in insurance. And then at one moment when this happened, this is like May of 2004, had been in it for 2 years, I said, I can really make some money with this. And then it was like, do you want to put in the effort? I said, I'm all in, let's go. And I started going 100 hours a week, and we started competing. So it's a beautiful thing when you sit there and you have I had 2 people I was competing with in the marketplace. Both of them had retired in the industry with massive 9-figure exits as well. But one of them had done it in his 50s. The other one had done it in his 60s. And that was my target. You know,
You always saw the vision.
100%. I always saw the vision. And I said, I'm going to give myself 20 years in this business, and I'm going to go all out. When I'm saying all out, I'm talking 100 every week. I'm at the office 6 days a week. If you ask people that have worked with me in the office and ask them how many sick days Pat's taken 13 years, they're probably going to tell you 1 or 2. So I'm not the guy that takes sick days. During COVID, I worked every single day except for one Sunday during COVID because it was a very uncertain time. But again, going back to the whole part when you're saying how this was, the first feeling is, okay, here's was the vision. This is what we casted. It became a reality. How about if the next vision is even bigger and we're willing to go at the same pace? Now we have more wisdom, more gunpowder, better connection, better contacts, more moral authority, credibility in the marketplace. What kind of an impact can we make next? And what can this next run look like? So it's an incredible feeling to say the least, because it validates your teaching and your philosophy. So during the time, if a lot of people said, oh, he has no clue what he's talking about, oh, he's wrong, oh, he's all about this and he's all about that, and then the market validates it with that big of a check, then those guys have to go answer to the people that they sold that this guy had no clue what he was doing. That's a tough conversation to have when the first person asks and says, so what do you think about what happened with Pat? I just want to record that conversation to see what their rebuttal is. Well, we always knew, but, it's Pat, but I've heard some things. That's the part that refuels me even more to go for the next one, because I constantly want to create content for many of those folks. But, it's a great feeling, to say the least.
And it's the ultimate checkmate, absolutely, to people who would have otherwise
The ultimate checkmate is that you have to say nothing. You know how hard it is that, imagine when...
Because that business is cutthroat, too.
Insurance is very cutthroat, and I was the most hated guy in the insurance industry for 15 years.
Especially when you blew up the brand, too.
Yeah, I was hated from many different angles. I don't look like an insurance CEO. I look more like a security guard. I'm not a 4-year degree from Cornell or Georgia Tech or this or that. I'm from Iran. I'm Middle Eastern. I'm loud. I'm very pro-capitalism, strong opinions. I'm not quiet about it. 54% of our agents were women, 51% Latino, 34 years old, so young, edgy, competitive, sports-minded, and we know how to have a good time. People that are in our circle, they have the time of their lives. And but that's kind of how it's got to be. That's, for me, a lot of times, a lady asked me a question this week. She came here from Australia to interview, an Armenian lady, very good interviewer as well. She said, how do you deal with family and relatives who criticize you and say stuff about you? How do you manage that? I said, it's crazy. I used to spend a lot of time thinking about that in my 20s. But what became exciting for me is the following. You have to expect them to say things about you. They have to say it. It's expected. It's natural. But if you try to go correct them that you're right and they're wrong, That's kind of like a high school senior varsity basketball player going and beating a 7th grader. What are you doing? You're a bully.
Yeah, and you're playing into the narrative.
You don't need to do that. What is a beautiful thing is the following thing. I tell you what kind of criticism I love. She said, what's that? I said, when a person 2 or 3 levels above you calls you out or gives you a sincere compliment. If a person 2, 3, 4, 5 levels above you calls you out, you know what they're saying? They're indirectly telling you they fear you being at their level one day. Let me say that one more time. So imagine a guy, you're doing $1 million a year. He's doing $3 million a year. You're doing $10 million a year. He's doing $17 million a year. You're doing $100 million a year. They're doing $340 a year. I remember one time I got a call from one of the largest insurance company in America that's been around for 168 years. It's based out of New York. Maybe you know what insurance company I'm talking about. And they said in their board meeting, they mentioned you and you came up. And I sat there and I said, that big of a company is talking about a 9-year-old company? That's amazing. Then I got a public letter sent to me from a CEO of a very large insurance competitor. Publicly, he sent that letter that he sent to me, he sent it to everybody. So everybody was posting it on social media, and I have this famous Facebook response to him, which you have to see it. It's very entertaining. And I brought up his golf score. I brought up all these other things. And I told him if later on in life you ever try to apply for a job for us, I'd love to interview you. And I really went at it because it was like 2:30 in the morning. But these are moments of confirmation where the opponent who's bigger than you says, I fear him, he's coming, it's a validation. So this is a game we're playing. And if you really are playing the game to kind of mix it up, those are the moments a competitor just looks forward to.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And it's probably what fuels you too at a certain level.
If you only knew, man. That's, yeah.
What about your biggest splurges that you feel comfortable sharing? I know you got a Ferrari SF90.
Yeah, I you know.
Real estate.
I don't know. Like, for example, I just bought a Porsche turbo, I don't know what is it, 911 Turbo S convertible. It's sick, 2.2 seconds, 0 to 60. But I bought it because I fit in it well. I'm 6'4", 245, so for me, I can fit in the SF90. My wife doesn't like to go on a date on the SF90, even though she's tiny. It's a 1,000 horsepower car. I bought it. It sat in the garage for, I've driven it maybe 10 times. If you make a right offer, I'll sell it to you right now. It's like, that's kind of where it's at with that car.
Yeah.
But my splurges, I will, in a drop of a hat, buy $1 million collectible card or spend a couple $1 million on cards. That to me, if you want to see me be 14 years old, childlike, give me a great baseball card. And that happened today as well. We were looking at like 18 of them in the morning. I would say for me, it's more that, where I get excited about it. Cars, really, what I will have one day, I will have a very high value car collection that has a story behind it. For example, this car was a gift given by Rolls-Royce to the Shah of Iran that's worth $28 million. I want that. You know, this was the Porsche that James Dean had. That's this. I want that. This is the car that Churchill, whatever. I want that. Those are the kind of collections I want because history drives me. But all the others, like having a Bugatti or having this, it just does literally nothing to me. Yeah.
Do you ever look around and think back? I know you've been so many years, you growing, but do you ever look back and think to that young Pat who was looking for answers, trying to struggle? You know, I know in our prior interview, you had talked about some of the earlier stuff when you were living in LA and trying to, you know, figure things out, make ends meet, going to the gym and really trying to like get things together. Do you ever trip out? Do you ever like pinch yourself and go, holy shit, how did this all happen when I was just that young man looking for answers?
Yeah, you know, it's crazy when you're saying this because we're having a conversation at the house the other day.
Like you trip out, holy shit.
There's no question about it. There's no question about it. And a lot of times it's more when I'm talking to my kids late at night and I'm like, you know, like I was saying to my son the other day, I said, do you realize if I don't come to the States and my parents don't bring us to America, you're not here. He said, I'm glad your parents brought us. I said, I'm glad my parents brought me. I said, do you realize if I don't go into that meeting that night, I don't meet your mom? Do you realize if this, and I kind of go through this, right? Do you realize if that day we didn't make a decision on September 23rd, 3:30 in the morning, I wake up in 2009 and I tell my wife, I'm resigning today, I'm starting a company and I'm going to go through God knows how many years of just challenges. I said, you guys are not going to be here today. So that part of it is a beautiful thing. The concept of where I was at to where I'm at, I've always been a dreamer. Never in a million years did the 18-year-old Pat think this was going to happen? I went into the Army thinking I'm going to do 20 years, meaning at 18 years old when I went to the U.S. Army, I'm a Hummer mechanic. I'm at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I get every single order I requested from Lieutenant Colonel Peacocks. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to do my 20 years. They went to Virginia. They got my orders to go to DLI. I speak 4 languages, so they were going to send me to Monterey to learn different languages. I was going to go to Vicenza, Italy. I was going to Sears School, Airborne, Special Forces, 18 Delta, 5th Group. I got every single order I wanted until I got a call one day from one of my friends who called me in the middle of the night, 12 o'clock, and he challenged me to get out. And the next day I woke up, went to my colonel, and I said, I'm getting out. And then boom, everything changed. So what if I stay 6 more years? If I stay 6 more years in the Army, then I'm in it for 8.5 years. I only have 11.5 more years to retire with 50% retirement benefits. Am I really going to leave the Army? If I re-enlist that day, I'm getting out of the Army 6 years ago at 38 years old, probably been married 3 times. I probably got 7 or 8 kids, and I'm probably broke with $18,000 in the bank, and maybe I'm not even getting out. Maybe I have to stay another 5 or 10 years to get my 100% pension or retirement. You would have no clue who I am. So the life is literally this close. We were having a conversation right now with one of our guys who got a fat bonus, and he got a fat raise, and the bonus I put for him in 2023, he's literally looking at me with a smile on his face saying, holy shit, I'm going to make a lot of money this year. I said, do you remember the conversation we had 9 months ago at the sushi spot? He says, I do. I said, do you remember what I told you? He says, of course I remember what you told me. I said, what I told you is the following. I said to you, how many more times are you going to take new challenges, and the moment it gets hard, you're going to run away from it? How many more times? I said, Einstein said, genius is when you stay with problems longer. Why do you not stay with problems longer until you solve it? Why do you not do that to yourself? I said, your biggest enemy is every time there's a new problem, you flight, you run away, you cop out, you do this. Stay with this damn thing for 5 more months. See what happens. Stay with it for 6 more months. Stay with it for another year. Stay with it for 2 more years, and then see what takes place with it. And then all of a sudden, your best friend momentum shows up, and then now you're overpaid. Now you're overly famous. Now you're overly getting credit for what you're not really doing, but what you did a year and a half ago, 2.5 years ago. So that concept of staying with problems longer is what sometimes we don't give enough credit to. But life to me is a combination. If you have a big life or a bad life, it's a combination of 5 major decisions that you'll be in that moment. And I'm convinced one day when you die and you're in heaven, or you're 80 years old on your deathbed and you're by yourself, you're going to go through those 5 decisions. One could be marriage. You should have married that girl, or you did and it was a good thing, or you did, it wasn't a good thing. So I knew the signals. Why did I? I knew the signals. Why didn't I? It could be drugs. It could be arrest. It could be an opportunity. It could be investments. It could be bad habits. It could be bad friends. You're going to go to those 5 moments. You're going to say, man, I'm so glad I made that decision. Because of that, I have this, or man, I missed out on that. So, none of us can predict fully the future, but it's going to come down to those 5 decisions.
Did it feel guided for you? Like, were there times where you struggled? Because I know a lot of people, especially in social media age, and, we probably have a pulse, kind of being in our 20s, early 30s. It's a lot different a time than you guys, where maybe people stayed a little bit longer with stuff. And I love that you mentioned that you stayed, you made the decision to stay in 20 years. But there's a lot of people now on social media who are in an opportunity, and they shiny object syndrome on social media. Someone says do this, someone says do that. For you, did it feel guided? Did you go, shit, I don't know, should I do this, should I do that? Or did it feel like you always kind of knew where to go? Or were there late nights where you go, shit, I don't know if I should leave military to do this. Was there a lot of, I don't know, asking people for advice?
100%.
And kind of spinning in circles?
No question about it. Yeah, there's no question about it. I'll give you an idea. So one day, it's me and the Bally Total Fitness produce a lot of killers, great salespeople. I'm telling you right now, one of them is in our office, but it produced a lot of great salespeople, right? And in the LA area, there was a few guys that you knew they were going to do something. It was myself. It was another guy named Tariq. It was another guy named Dan. A few other guys, but those are the main names I'm talking about, right? So we all were competing. We're all 21 years old, around that age is where we are. So we're sizing each other up to see what's going to happen. But we all know we're not going to do Bally's for the rest of our life. We just don't know where people are going to go. So one day, everybody leaves. Couple of them going to real estate, couple of them going to loans, couple of them going to all these different businesses everybody goes in.
What year are we talking here?
This is 1999. This is 1999, 2000. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I can't go into real estate and loans because everybody's going. I'm going to go. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into being a stockbroker. So I go to 9/11. I go to Morgan Stanley Dean Witter a day before 9/11. Monday. Tuesday is 9/11. 9/10 is my first. I'm like, oh shit, bad timing, right? I go to Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, and then I'm sizing everything up. I look at insurance, I look at annuities, I look at 401k, I look at hedge fund, I look at mutual funds, I look at stocks, I look at real estate, I look at all this stuff. And I say, okay, I know I'm going to be in finance. I just don't know what part of finance I'm going to be in. I'm not going to be doing all of it. I got to pick one of them. So I chose insurance. The other guys, they chose loans. One day I'm at B of A. This is 2 years later, so it's 04, something like that. I'm at B of A, and I'm in line talking to the teller, arguing over $329.95, what do you call it, over limit fee or overdraft fee. And I'm like, this, sir, we can't do nothing about it. And I'm like upset at this lady. And then I look to my left, and it's one of the other weekend managers. I say, hey, what's up? You know, I'm like, I hope he didn't hear, but he heard what I was saying. He says, how you doing, Pat? I said, everything's good. Everything good? Everything good. I'm like, great. Very competitive because everybody was like, who's getting the hot girl? Who's going to Garden of Eden? Who's showing up with the hottest girls? Who's doing this? Yeah. It was so competitive.
Macho, yeah.
Everybody's competitive, and everybody is somebody.
Especially in L.A.
Yeah, and it was, these were like the main core guys that we were very competitive. And I hear, oh, okay, great. Good seeing you, Pat. Yeah, I'd like to make a deposit of $500,000. I'm looking at him. I'm like, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $500,000. Oh, Mr. This, his last name. I'm Patrick, but he's Mr. something.
Yeah.
Annoyed the hell out of me.
And you're overdrafting account.
And I'm dealing with $329 over. So I'm like, holy moly. So I go, you know, when you're broke and you leave a restaurant and you have dinner with somebody, you're trying to impress them or sell them something. This is the rule of thumb. Always remember this. When people are walking out, if somebody says, you have to go to the bathroom, but great seeing you, they have a bad car. The other guy has a nice car.
Sure. Yeah.
The person that has a nice car is very comfortable leaving with you at the same time to call the valet. So your car to So I was the guy that would say, oh, good seeing you. I'm going to use the bathroom. And then I would wait outside. Okay, he's gone. All right, can you get my Ford Focus? And then I'm leaving, right? So I go outside the bank, and I'm just sitting there in the car seeing what it does. What does he pull up with? He pulls up with a nice, you know, whatever it was at the time, a Lambo or a Porsche or a Ferrari. And he leaves. I'm like, this guy, man, I know I'm better than this guy. So then everybody says, why don't you go do loans? Why don't you go do real estate? Why don't you go do this? You should do that. Look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. And I'm this close to leaving insurance to go to loans. This close. Now, here's what happened.
21-ish?
25-ish, 26-ish. So one day I go to this one guy who's a realtor. Every time I tell these stories, my realtor friends love me because I you know, talk a lot of shit to them. But this, and by the way, there's a lot of money to be made in real estate. I bought this property. I put barely God knows how much money down payment. 6 months later, I got an offer that gave us 400% return on this because they're building 300 units here. So there is money in this. It's just not my game, right? Real estate.
Quick sidebar. How much have you spent on real estate since the acquisition?
Not a lot. 20 million to 35 million, 35 million, 30.
Chump change for Patrick Bet David. Not a lot.
But it's not a lot. If you think about it, it's really not a lot. But 35 million. So, you know, I'm looking at this guy saying he's going to go do this, but I'm coming back. And I'm sitting there saying, what industries am I going to get involved in? So I'm having dinner with this guy in Valencia one time, 60-year-old man. His picture's everywhere as a realtor. Saturday night, we're having dinner. Great guy, telling stories, making good food, beautiful view in his backyard. It's 9 o'clock. He says, all right, man, I got to go to sleep. I said, you got to go to sleep for what? I said, you've been in real estate how long? 35 years. He says, I got to go to sleep. Why? I got a show at 8 a.m. in the morning. I said, you got a show at 8 a.m. in the morning? He says, yeah, I'm a realtor. I said, there's no way in the world I want to be a realtor. I'm not doing that. I don't want to give up my Sunday. Now, that's me.
Yeah, you want to...
I knew I'm not going to be a realtor. Then I looked at the mortgage side. Look what's going on right now with real estate. Every 5 to 10 years in the mortgage industry, you're going to have rates that are going to go up. So if you make 3 years of $1 million and you make 3 years of $150,000, you didn't make $1 million. You made $3.45 million over a 6-year period. So 3.45 divided by 6 years is what? $550,000 per year. But you lived a life of $1 million year income for 3 years. Now your real average is $550,000. And most people, when they live a life of $1 million, they don't save thinking they're going to be at $550,000. Boom, lose the house. Boom, sell that Patek watch for $200,000 that you paid $500,000 for, sell the other house, sell this, sell that, and then boom, back at it again. Hey, the next run and the next run. I'm like, what do you have left? And big banks don't buy mortgage companies because the X factor on the EBITDA is very low because it's all based on that personality. There is no renewals, there is no residual, there is no equity. So you can make a lot of money as a loan officer, a lot of money, 100, 200, $500,000 a month. You can make a lot of money in real estate if you're properly investing it on the side and you're getting rental. A lot of guys are doing that. They're killing it. More power to them. But most guys in real estate and loans don't do that. So I sat there and I said, 20 years, I'm going to give one thing. Which one is it going to be? And then I solved for what I'm going to be building with insurance because insurance wasn't a sexy industry. Not everybody looked at the insurance. Everybody thinks real estate is sexy. Mortgage is sexy. Stocks is sexy. Who the hell thinks insurance is sexy? Perfect. I'm going to go in that space. And if I become a leader in that space, guess what? There's a lot of value for me. I have a lot of leverage. I can make a lot of ass. I can push the weight a little bit. I can push the envelope a little bit. So that's the part where I almost went into real estate and loans. I'm not doing it is because sometimes not enough people think 10 to 20 years. So it was this close for me to have left the insurance industry to real estate and loans.
And that was one of those key 5 decisions you talked about.
There's no question about it.
Was it something that you kind of struggled with for over a period of months, weeks, or was it like once you made the decision you were done, or did it tempt you over the time? Because I'm sure you had hard times with insurance. It wasn't like you started it and you were on a rocket ship.
So I'm driving. We're having lunch today with my wife. We're coming back. My babe, I love this car. Here's what my wife says. She says, yeah, babe, you're going to get bored in 3 months. I know you. And I said, what do you mean? She said, babe, that's your personality. That's why you can't keep cars for too long. I've never heard you love a car that you want to keep it. And I'm like, listening to her. I'm like, you know what? She's right. The crazy part is I get bored very, very quickly where I want a new challenge, right? So I know that area of mine. But I'm also a guy that likes routine. I'm also a guy that likes to sit in the same corner at the same table, order the same 3 items, have the same waiter. I want that to me is also so
control the controllables.
Control the controllables, but also understand the temptation of many options, many opportunities, especially when you become very good at what you do. You know, other people who are like 4 levels above you, they're going to be like, man, you're doing great in insurance. But if you were only a stockbroker, you're doing great in this. But let me tell you, you're doing great in, but if you were doing solar, we would be making $1 million. You're like, oh, you think I'll do good in solar? Oh, you'll think I'll do good in this? And it's so tempting, but you can't be naive because every business you go into is hard. Every business you go into is hard. There is no such thing as one industry is easier than the other one and all that other stuff. There's not. You just have to know long-term what you're solving for. So the temptation is going to be there. You have to be aware of yourself. Are you the guy that doesn't stay with problems long? Are you the guy that falls for the temptation and the flattery of, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. I've never met somebody as eloquent as you. You would do good, so good selling our products. You would be so good doing this. And you're like, oh my God, this is a great feeling. This is fantastic. But that means for the rest of your life, flattery is going to control you. And if you're controlled by flattery, let me tell you, you don't control your life. People control you through flattery. And it's a flaw that many of us, it takes us decades to learn that we all have because we like it. You can't fall for it. But flattery ruins a lot of people's lives.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Omar here. Listen, we're going to get right back to the video in a sec. But I just wanted to let you know that if you're enjoying this video, and I really hope that you're enjoying this video, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I really want to get some coaching. I really want to get some consulting to take my life, my business, my brand to the next level. Whatever it is, you're in luck. Because you can check out the link in the description below and also an application down there where we can learn more about you and see how we can help you, support you, and take your life or business to the next level. And don't forget that if you know you want to hop on a call with us and work with us, you can actually book a call with our team in the description down below as well. Now let's get back to the video. Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the fact that you thought long-term about insurance because it's one of the most timeless industries ever. Regardless of recession, economic time, it's not like real estate that's up and down. It's like you really thought long-term. I want to ask, because I did see the clip where you mentioned that you had a 20-year time horizon. And in this year, in this day and age in social media, everyone's trying to make $1 million this year, $2 or $3 million over the next 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. What was the impetus for you to actually think long term? Where did that come from? Because it's such obviously, we just came literally today from interviewing Bobby and Sofia Castro. They exited their company. It was at $1 billion valuation. And they were saying the same thing, that every time he tried a different business opportunity, he was always thinking short term, 1 year, 2 years. The second he zoomed out and said, fuck it, I'm going to get rich slow, so to speak, and zoomed out, that's when things really started to work. Even when I interviewed, for example, John Paul DeJoria, founder of Patron Tequila and Paul Mitchell Shampoo and Conditioner, he articulated to me one of the most profound points ever. He said that multi-billionaires because he started not one, but two multi-billion-dollar companies. He said, they think in terms of 2 or 3 decades or more. Billionaires think in terms of, a decade, maybe 2. People make a couple $100 million bucks think in terms of a decade. People make tens of millions of dollars think maybe, 5 to 10 years. People who make a couple $1 million bucks think in terms of 2 or 3 years, all the way, down to where the lowest paid people in the world think about their wage per hour, right? Like minimum wage. So the time horizon with which they evaluate time. But I'm curious for you, where did that come from? Where did the vision of?
I read a book. By the way, both of them have a very good point. I read a book called Toyota Way, and Toyota Way talked about how Toyota went from looking at the assembly line, how it was taking a minute and 48 seconds to solve a problem, and they would bring it down to minute and 28 seconds to minute and 11. So eventually it was like 59 seconds where problems were being addressed the moment it's coming up in the assembly line, and you ring the bell and somebody shows up and a boom, fix, 59 seconds, address, next, boom. So you sit there and you think about how these guys think, right? Toyota, 20-year business plan in Toyota is a short-term business plan. Do you know the oldest company in the world where it's based out of? It's out of Japan. It's 1,500 years old. Do you know how many companies in Japan are over 100 years old? Do you know the number? 50,000 companies in Japan are over 100 years old. How are you able to have 50,000 companies over 100 years old? What is the mindset behind that? Well, one of the things about building a company in Japan, the idea is if you're my son, I'm building it because I want to keep close. I want to keep the family close to each other. So I'm developing the next layer. You're developing the next layer. He's developed because now family is going to be fine because the business is going to be taken care of our last name, right? So then the business stays for 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 180 years. So meaning I've done my part. Now it's your part. I got the business from my dad. Now I'm going to set you up to be the CEO one day. Now you're going to do this. Your brother's going to do this. Your sister's going to pass the baton, right? So when you sit there and I remember one time I'm competing with this one girl. It was her and another guy. And at one event, she gets up and she's speaking and she calls me out. And then I go up and I speak. I said, let me tell you something. I said, you have me maybe in this area, in this other area, in this area. There's one area in this business you don't have me. And you will never be able to compete with me because you don't have this other area. I said, it's not even fair. Matter of fact, to not have you go through mental issues in the future, I would highly recommend you not competing with me because it's going to disappoint you. And you're going to live the rest of your life saying how you couldn't beat me because there's this one thing that you don't have that I know I have. Now, that sounds a little bit arrogant. It may sound a little bit cocky, but I was convinced this was my edge. And you know what the edge was? Here's what my edge is. In success, there's 4 things. Outwork, which a lot of people do, but for periods of time. Out-improve, which a lot of people do, but for periods of time. Out-strategize, which a lot of people could do for periods of time. You know what the last one is? Outlast. Most people cannot last. Most people are going to get $1 million, they're happy. Most people are going to get $10 million, they're going to be happy. When I first walked in here, like, hey, how did it feel with your exit? And I said, it was expected. It's not like it's a great feeling. I told you the story of my wife and what happened, but I knew this was coming. And I know the next 3, 4, 5 events that I'm solving for is coming, right? The challenge is going to be when that success comes your way and people say, oh, I'm never going to stop. Okay, we'll find out. Oh, Pat, I'm going to be your biggest earner. Cool. We'll find out. Wait till you make $250,000 a year. Wait till you make $1 million a year. Wait till you got $1 million in the bank. Let's see what time you still wake up in the morning. Let's see if you got $10 million in the bank. Let's see what you're eventually going to do. Then it happens to you. And then you're like, damn, she was right. He was right. I got $1 million in the bank. I don't have the urgency I had before. Bingo. That was your vision. $1 million. Right. Yeah, Dana White. Dana got $350 million in 2016 when the deal was done. He said, Yeah, he's going back to work the same exact, way he was doing it. Look what he's done with, UFC to where it's at during COVID while everybody else, he became the #1 commissioner. Everybody's targeting that. Of course, he had a terrible incident this last 2 weeks ago, whatever he did, he's already called himself out for what he's done. But you look at him as a commissioner. You look at him as a guy that's running an entire sport. During COVID, he's the MVP, 2-year MVP, back-to-back. What happened with him? He got the money. Guess what the marketplace is realizing? That guy's a big thinker. $350 million didn't stop him. How many people stop at a point? A lot of people do. A lot of people do.
Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, of course, 1,000,000%. Of course. It happened to me in 2007 when a new guy came and beat me. And I had to, at this one event, the speaker said, you know, this year we're going to give the MVP in a completely different way. We're going to give the MVP. We're going to have the runner-up give it to the winner. So they bring me and him up. And they say, and the MVP goes to, they say him.
Shit.
And I have to give the award to him. So I'm like, okay. I gave it to him. I handed it to him, and I said to him, whispered to him, I said, listen, I got to give it to you. You outworked me this year. I wasn't paranoid enough this year. I wasn't fully focused for the last 12 months, but I'm going to tell you this. He says, what's that? Never for the rest of your life will this ever happen again. It's game over. That level of paranoia was reminded in that moment. One of the most important books I read by Andy Grove, it said, only the paranoid survive. We lose paranoia. We run our businesses as if it's always going to keep growing and you're always going to be successful, and you don't think that it could go bankrupt tomorrow. You lose the paranoia. You become too cocky. It's like the guy that's a boxer constantly winning. Then he boxes like this and he gets knocked out. You lost your paranoia. Happens to all of us, but hopefully you hope that happens to you early on in your career, that you can always go back to it and say, hey, I know you just got a big check. Remember, you could get knocked out. Hey, I know you're getting a lot of eyeballs. Remember, hey, I know you're doing this. Are you still reading? Are you still feeding your mind? Are you still researching? Are you still preparing the questions like you did before? Are you still Are you still recruiting? Are you still paying heavy salaries to recruit the right talent? Are you becoming cheap? What are you doing right now? Are you that reminder can always go back into that. So not going to sit here and tell you I haven't fallen for that. But when I stop, it will be because I'm done.
Yeah.
There's only one person that can stop me with what I'm doing next, and it's not going to be me. The only person that can stop me is the man upstairs. If he, through health, through whatever, says, hey, listen, a little too much, go relax, okay? You've done your part. We don't need you anymore. Salute. I'm good.
Has God always played a big role in your life?
The moment I figured out he was playing a big role in my life, yes. When I was 25 years old, an atheist for 25 years, didn't believe in God. My parents got a divorce. I lived in Iran. I saw the bombing. I don't trust anybody. When you come out of the Middle East, you typically, if you know Middle Easterns, they don't trust people that is. Yeah, so we don't trust,
anybody.
It's very hard.
Read underneath the,
Very, very hard until we fully trust, and even when we fully do, fully to us is 90%.
Yeah. We're always looking for
the
slip.
To see, did you see what happened? Did you see this?
Like
just a little unfair to the other
little
person.
nuances.
Yes, little nuances. But, so that part for me is like, you want me to trust the pastor? Do you know what I saw a pastor do? Do you know what I saw this person do? Do you know what I saw this? And I'm good, man. I'm totally good. This is a bunch of fake stuff and all these other things. And then I was,
or whatever.
Yeah, and I was in the Army, and one day, Drill Sergeant Pirtle comes out, which we reconnected on social media. He comes out and says, hey, Bet David, this, that. You guys can go and hang out with this guy at his camp for 3 days. Like, oh, great, to get away from this for 3 days is fantastic. So we go to the place. He's got one of these ropes that you go into the lake. He's got a small pool table, which is great. It even wasn't a good one, but still was enough that we can play. But every night we had to listen to Bible study for 1 hour. So he would do the Bible study. I'm sitting all the way in the back. I'm not paying attention. I'm bored out of my mind. I'm just saying stuff on my mind. Oh, you're full of shit. You're this, you're that. At the end of it, this 70-year-old man gives me this Bible. He says, my parents gave this to me on Christmas of 1974. This is 1997. He says, son, I think you need this more than I need this. I'm going to gift you this what my parents gave me.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm the wrong person to give this to. Don't do this to yourself. It means more to you than me. He says, I'm telling you, God told me to give it to you. I'm looking, till today I have this Bible. And a gift to him, December 24th of 1974, whatever the year was, 25 years prior to that. Now I'm like, God, this is so weird. Here we go again. Anyways, that day I go back to the barracks. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start praying 3 times a day. To God I don't believe in. So this is my prayer, how it started, 97, September. Listen, man, I don't believe you exist. But God, if you do, I'm going to talk to you. This is the only way I know how to pray. Here's what my day was like. My concern is this. My fear is this. My insecurity is this. If you're there, help me deal with this. Anyways, amen. 3 times a day I prayed like that, okay? So then this goes, and then I get out, and then I have that one event with my mom one day when she calls me out of the blue at 2:30 in the morning, 30 minutes after I broke up with my girlfriend and we're in a bad situation. I'm in debt $49,000. I'm sitting in my expedition. Nothing's going right. I'm about to re-enlist back into the Army. I'm at the lowest point of my life, and I tell God I want to hear from my mom, and my phone rings from a block number at a new Nextel phone number, 818-968-6660, which she doesn't have the number. And I pick up, I'm like, what are you doing? She's crying, saying, I felt like my son needed it. I said, how'd you get my number? That day, I'm like, something's going on here. Anyways, long story short, from that moment, I knew there was a relationship, and then I went to church. I found Shepherd. The rest is history. And from that moment until today, it's like knowing a big authority, a powerful person has your back. But yeah, faith has played a very important role in my life since then.
I love that, man. And one of the things I love about what you do is you've always taken big sort of, I don't want to call it risks, but you've invested heavy on surrounding yourself with heavy hitters, interviewing heavy hitters. And also, we all know in social media and the podcast world, it's a lot of the same people making the rounds. But one of the things you've done really well is chase that championship mindset across industry, across niche, from interviewing, former mafia members to Kobe Bryant, presidents of countries. What have you learned? I know it's kind of a sort of a sidebar, but what have you learned along your journey of success that has been probably the most interesting or the most, insightful thing that you didn't see on the way up? Now that you've connected, you interviewed Kobe not too long before he passed, rest in peace, Kobe. But, what are some of the things you picked up about the championship mindset that kind of you realize later on down the road?
So I'm going to say something. I know this guy's being this and that, but I'm going to tell you exactly how I view this. So for me, we had a meeting one day, and I told Mario, I said, Mario, these guys are asking us to go speak at that event. I don't want to speak at that event, because if I speak at that event, I'm in that box.
Mm-hmm.
If I go speak in that event, everyone's going to see me as in that community or that community or this community. I don't relate to that community. They're great. They're doing fantastic. So I do 4 speaking gigs per year, not because we get 4. We get hundreds per year, but I only do 4. Mm-hmm. And it's very intentional which ones I go to and why I do those events, okay? No problem. So he says, why not this? So let me tell you who I relate to. Mm-hmm. And I wrote all the names on this board. Never forget this meeting. I said, here's this guy. Here's that guy. Here's her. Here's that community. Here's this. Here's that. Here's this. These are the 3 I want to get close to, because these are the 3 I relate to. And I wrote the names down, okay? Everything became very focused about going that route. Make sense?
Can I ask what those 3 names are?
No, I'm not. I won't give you the names, but there were these 3 names that I went to. You can ask it, but I don't want to. And I said, this is the target on where I'm going after and what I'm not going after. Mm-hmm. And we came back, and he says, Pat, you sure you want to do this? Yes. How come you don't want to do that? I said, that's not the long-term vision of what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I'm solving for this. This is where I want to go. Let me tell you, it's a little of a risk that you're taking, because what happened during that 4 or 5 year period, you have to assume that individually, without needing that community, you can make it to that level that garners the right to say, these are the 3 I relate to, right? So it's not it's a very, very big risk. The easier move is to do what? To just go in, hey, can I borrow your, no. If that guy calls in, I'm going, okay? If that guy calls in, I want to be part of his community. I want to be in his circle. I want to have a relationship with him, but I don't want to prostitute my brand.
Right.
Okay. Just like in high school or in the military, everybody had a clique, and if you're part of that clique, you are that clique.
Yeah.
So if somebody from the outside sees you, oh, he's just a funnels guy, he's just a this guy, or he's just a that guy, or he's just a motivator. I don't want to be that. Yeah. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to be doing that. So people are like, so how come you never interviewed that one guy? How come you've never interviewed that one guy? How come you've never interviewed this one? It's not what I'm solving for. I don't want to solve for that. So we were a little bit more intentional in that area. It was a risk, because some people say, well, you got to be kidding me. You would rather interview mobsters than interview them. This has nothing to do with character. the people that I didn't go in with that community, that has nothing to say about their character. They're very good people, better people than maybe some of the other, people I interviewed, but I was interested in that story. I wanted to go slightly a different angle. Risk came with it, a lot of risk came with it, but eventually, similar thing to as when you build your company, you don't go ask money up front. If you start your company and you ask money up front, you're giving up equity, you're controlled too early. Versus if you wait to go get equity later on, you're asking for cash later on, you're only giving up a little bit of equity. Somebody cannot tell you how to run, how to work, how to do this, how to do that. I don't want to call an approval and say, hey, we're about to pay $1 million for this. Okay, let us get 4 people to approve this. It's going to take a month and a half. I don't want to call you and get an approval. I just want to say, here's the money we're spending, right? Well, if I give up 51% of equity to somebody else, I can't do that. Well, I own 83% of the company. So I'm not going to give it up to lose the control with that. That same thing happens when you all of a sudden go into too many of these circles, then you're losing too much control. Again, some may say, yeah, he's just talking this. This is my philosophy and it's worked.
And then I wanted to ask, what's the number one thing from a couple different people you've interviewed? So number one, I got to ask, he's, one of the hottest topics online, Andrew Tate. Talk to me a little bit about, what are some of the things that you picked up, whether on or off camera from Andrew, that maybe a lot of people don't get to see when they see the flash or the hype on social media. What was your take on Andrew?
Are you close to your mom or your dad?
Probably my dad.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Okay, but close to both?
Yeah.
But closer to your dad?
Yes.
Okay. Out of 10 things that you know with your dad, okay, are there areas where your dad is a 0 and areas where he's a 10 and areas where he's a 5S?
Sure.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, I can say the same thing about my mom, my dad, and a lot of different people, right? First time I interviewed Sammy the Bull Gravano, how could you interview? I mean, I cannot tell you how many emails we got and how many different families reached out to us about that interview.
Oh, like
I can't even tell you how many. Yeah. Why are you interviewing this guy, Sammy? Do you know what he did? Do you know the 19 families? A lot of them reached out to us because of doing that interview. Okay. So, Andrew Tate. How can you interview Andrew Tate when you see him do this, that? Okay. The hardest thing people, have a hard time with is for us to isolate different areas of someone's life. Meaning, I can isolate and say, this guy went from 2 years ago, nobody knowing who he is. He's the most searched guy on Google. Love him or hate him. There's a lot of envy. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of people that wish they could do what he does. It's not possible. He's one of the best communicators. He's one of the best storytellers. He's one of the best, most wittiest guy that comes up with stories to tell you at the right time, to challenge, to push, to do all of that, to troll, to talk smack, to educate, to give a different perspective. He is a entertainer, a philosopher, a troller, if you want to call it that. And at the same time, a dream seller is who he is.
Sure.
Okay? So you're able to isolate and say, man, this is very impressive what he's done here. This is pretty interesting what he's talking about in this area, calling out the globalists, the government, this, that. Very different perspective he gave here about marriage, about this, about that. Okay. And he's empowering men to have a little bit of backbone right now, that men have become a little bit soft, a little bit of pansies. Yeah, some of the philosophies you probably don't agree with. Hey, Pat, do you agree with the fact that he said, if you want to have a kid, go to South or Central America, get 3 girls pregnant and come back? Do you agree with that? Let's isolate that one area and ask me specifically to that. I'll give you my opinion. And then, hey, do you realize what he's going through? First of all, I believe in innocent until proven guilty. If he did what he did, the court's got to do what they got to do. Do I believe that some people can't stand what he talks about and they want to figure out a way for that to be silenced? Just a couple of days ago in UK, the prime minister has to sit up and answer in the parliament about Andrew Tate in UK, the fact that a woman is saying, we are working so hard to work back all these years of progress we made with boys. What progress with young boys? These young boys are becoming pansies. You call that progress to get them to be sissies? That's progress to you? That's not progress. But to get into that conversation where they're now fearing him, we have to do a better job, or we need more money, or we're giving $2 billion to work with the social media companies to do a better job, and Yeah, so is he making some points that he's scaring the crap out of some people? Yes. Are there some young boys that are taking it and saying certain things to young girls in schools and they're acting like idiots? Is that happening? I 100% believe it's happening. But you know what's confusing to me? Nobody criticizes Little Nas X coming down and, giving a lap dance to the devil. That's cool with you? Okay. Hey, nobody says forget about body count, Cardi B. You're okay with that? All right, cool. That's your values and principles.
Rappers, hip hop, or whatever.
Hey,
Music,
listen, Tupac. What's Tupac's one of his the song that cost him his life? That's one of the top workout songs for some guys that like him. That's why you fat mother. What song is that? Hit 'em up.
Yeah.
Did you say anything about that? Goes back to kind of like the song when Bone Thugs and Harmony did, where they used that preacher's line where he says, "We're not against rap, we're not against rappers." But we are against those thugs. And the song It's the Thuggish Ruggish Bone. It was by Bone Thugs and Harmony. Beautiful thing that they used, and it took off. It was a great album. More murder, all this other stuff. But how come we don't talk about those things? How come we don't talk about the current rap on how they label women and these music videos? By the way, I'm not telling you to do anything to it. So I'm not one that's saying, let's eliminate all these tapes. Let's eliminate all these CDs. Let's eliminate all these. I'm not telling you that.
Yeah.
But if you're okay with that and all of those movies and cartoons and bullshit stuff that you're trying to groom kids with,
That's disgusting.
you worry Tate, what he's saying. No, so the challenge I have is the level of hypocrisy and contradiction where if you are presenting your argument and you're okay with Little Nas X, you should be okay with Tate because he's the complete opposite side. Right. If you're okay with Cardi B, you should be okay with Tate. If you're okay with all these things, or the part I will respect if they say, we want to ban Little Nas X and we want to ban Tate. Well, then you have a little bit more credibility.
Influence, yeah.
Not saying it's true, not saying it's the right thing to do, but now you have the right to say, fine, I can entertain that idea because you have some kind of logic behind it. But the current argument that the opposition of Tate is creating, again, let's isolate if he committed crime. I'm not I haven't spent, the most time I've spent with them is 8 hours. So I don't know. When I had my experience with Tristan, I like Tristan a lot. To me, I have 2 sons. I would love to see the loyalty of my 2 sons be the way that these 2 are and how much fun they have with each other. They want to be around each other. How many fathers raise boys and they don't want to be around each other? How many parents raise kids and siblings don't want to be around each other? I don't know what this father taught these 2 guys, but these 2 brothers look at each other like they're inseparable. The way they defend each other. You telling me you wouldn't want your sons to be that close to each other? Set the other stuff aside. Would you want your boys to be that close to each other? I think so. So, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of things we can isolate that we could disagree with that they're doing. Great, no problem. I'm willing to entertain a conversation. But stop with the hypocrisy and the bullshit that you're selling to people. And we have to sit there and take it from you as if you're so much above ground and you walk on water. No, you're full of shit. Your argument doesn't carry weight.
Yeah. And what were they like, real quick, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate off camera compared to on camera, from your perspective?
What did I say about you before we got started in the interview? I said what to? I said you're a great interviewer, right? I said you have the ability to ask questions that, not a lot of people are good interviewers.
You said I was smooth.
You're very smooth. I told your girl you're very smooth. And I remember the first time I walked away. Okay, but guess what? So somebody may come back and say, do you know what Omar did when he was 18 years old? I don't know what you did at 18 years old. Sure. I don't know what you did at 16 years old. I don't know what you did at 29 years old. I have no idea. I don't know what you went through the last 12 months. I don't know any of that stuff. But if someone asks me for the 2.5 hours that I've spent time with you, I can judge you for those 2.5 hours and the way you've treated me off camera. I can judge you on that because I have the moral authority and the experience to say, this is what I think of this guy based on the 2.5 hours I spent with him, right? Okay. Based on the 8 hours or so I spent time with these guys, when I was in the military, we were a very tough crowd to be with.
Locker room talk.
Yeah. So me, not just locker room talk. Our group till today, like I got one of my guys message me the other day. He was my sergeant in the Army. He was a guy that, on the weekends, he would drink 27 beers and would drive back from Nashville, Tennessee. And one time we got into a terrible car accident. I got 3 staples in my head. And, we prevented him from getting a DUI. And they eventually, anyways, a bunch of story with this guy's stolen car. He messages me. We're telling stories to each other, right? if you came in our crew and you had thin skin,
Yeah.
you would have mental issues.
Get smoked. Yeah.
You would get destroyed. so the soft, the people were very soft. They couldn't be around our circle, right? Okay, that's Tate.
Yeah.
You can't be around. They can take shots at you, and then if you can take it back at them, because they understand that game.
It's a little bit of respect.
It's a little bit of that. Okay, it's kind of, you can play the game.
It's like Kobe
And-
shit talking.
Yeah, exactly. But then you can take it and you can give it and all that. It's kind of like that kind of a culture. And then, look, I mean, if you want to have a good time, those guys are probably going to be the guys to party with. They invited us back. The next time, let's do something in Romania. I said, listen, man, if you want to go, you go. I'm trying to stay married here, so I'm not going back to Romania. But, it was the kind of a person that I can go to dinner with, and 5 hours will feel like 5 minutes, because I love great conversations. I love laughing. I love talking about important things like politics and finance at the same time, talk shit, debate, do all of that. And they seem like the types of people that do that naturally.
Okay, last question on it, and I got to ask, was there anything surprising that stuck out that maybe you didn't expect about him?
Off camera, he shared a few things that he opened up with that obviously I will not talk about, but he opened up. I'm like, okay, interesting that he's talking about that and trusting and opening up. And it's as if once the camera was off, rather than being more arrogant and more cocky and posturing more, he went the other way.
Yeah.
It was more humble. It was more like this way. Where, there's a part of it that's showmanship, right? He's a showman. Now, you can be with your girl sometimes, and amongst everybody, we act like, oh, babe, I love you. We're holding hands. We get in the car. Get your hand off me. Can't believe what you said. So there is that side that we don't know either. I'm not a guy that can give that perspective. The only perspective I can give is when the camera was off and the show was off, he was even more likable. So it's
More human.
More human is the right word. I would say he was more human when the camera was off. And you're like, interesting, man. You saw that side. We're like, I like you even more with the camera off. Yeah. We can all put on a show, and then the camera's off, and you're like, oh, okay, that guy's really interesting. Okay, cool. I like him. Oh, wow, what an asshole.
Yeah.
Off camera. So there is that. But for me, it went the complete opposite way.
Yeah, no, and I would love to interview them too, but I know they're in some legal trouble right now.
You can if you want to go to jail and maybe spend some time there as well and sit down and see what you could do. But that interview will never be on camera.
Yeah.
It'll be in a different place.
Yeah. Okay, and then what about Kobe Bryant? Because you had a unique, ticket to history in a sense, getting to talk with him, asking him questions that a lot of people haven't been able to ask him. Any surprising things on or off camera or behind the scenes? I know he was at your event, but any things that stuck out to you about Kobe Bryant?
So he walks in. We had a meeting. We have a famous meeting. If you remind me, I'll give you the picture to put it up. We're in a boardroom, and I'm sitting across, and he's sitting across from me. We're having a conversation together, and he says, so it's pretty loud out there. I said, yeah. He says, how many people you have out there? I said, 6,200 people. He says, you nervous? I said, not at all. I said, you? He said, no, not at all. I said, then it's going to be a great interview. I said, I agree. So then you start talking to him, and then you see how he is. Same with Kobe, maybe even more with Kobe, because what I saw with Kobe off camera is how he spoke to my wife, for how long, and how he spoke to my kids, and how Dylan, the day he died, we were at Seasons 52, when the news came out, CNN saying Kobe Bryant helicopter crash fatal, and you're thinking this is like, how sometimes these stories come out and you're like, oh, this is a terrible joke. Who's played it? And then they tweet out and say, I'm alive. This is not a joke. This is someone's playing a bad joke and stuff. You're waiting for that. You're like, no, not happening. This is what's going on. And then my son Dylan starts, because it's Kobe, my friend. So, those experiences, because I saw how he sat there and just talked to Dylan. Like, he's a grown man at the time. Dylan was 7 years old. And how he talked to my nephew, and, a lady came in, a 72-year-old white lady came in, and the way, because she was in town in Vegas, and the way they hugged each other and talked to each other like it was his great aunt or his aunt. And, I had no idea what the relationship was with the two of them, but she talked to him like it's his son. And he talked to her like it's, but you can see the love with whoever that individual was. I don't know who it was. And then we sat down, we started talking about life. We talked about different things. And then once the interview was up on stage, it was like, so smooth, because I followed this guy's career. August 23rd, 1978, baby. I'm October 18, 1978. He's 6 weeks older than me. When he came to LA, I'm a big Shaq guy. That interview led to Shaq being upset with me, which he DM'd me, what a stupid questions to ask, if Shaq had your work ethic, who would he been? And then he blocked me. And then I'm like, why would you block me? And then years later, I'm trying to get him to sit down. And then finally, Shaq agrees to come down for an interview. And so Shaq comes to the MGM Grand Arena. We're at the event. There's, thousands of people at the Grand Arena waiting. We're in the back. He says, that was a stupid question. I said, Shaq, that's not a stupid question. It's a valid question. Why would you ask? I said, Shaq, how can that be a stupid question? And it's me, him, my wife, my kids, everybody's there. He says, let me tell you why it's a stupid question. At that time, I already had 4 kids. He didn't have 4 kids. He was this, he was that. I'm already going through this, and I like to have fun, and I kind of got to do that. We're different, that or this, with that. I'm like, okay, fine. And then that relationship led into a friendship where Shaq messages, and my son and Shaq talk to each other. Dylan, by the way, Shaq's also maybe, Shaq is maybe one of the most likable guys off camera on how he is and the memory he has. We know these guys as great athletes. I mean, they're on the wall over there. I got, both of their pictures on that wall. But, learning about these guys and seeing what they did and what their mindset is and how different they are and what they, during that time for us to follow these guys the way they did. But I'm more interested on how they are off camera. And both Shaq and Kobe, they were 10 times more impressive off camera than they were on camera.
Yeah. And was there any part of you, especially coming from LA, that is thinking, holy shit, how did I go from, being overdrafted my bank account in my 20s in LA, never thinking you'd ever meet them, to them at your event interviewing both of them? Does that still trip you out, or do you get used to it at a certain point?
So crazy you say that. So the easy story is to say what? Yeah, I would never thought that this, that. But, I'm going to give you a different side of the story. I see myself as an equal in a different industry. I know this sounds very weird and arrogant, but I see myself as an equal in a complete different industry, because the amount of dedication it takes to make it in that game, I am sure it takes the same amount of dedication in a different industry. The only difference is insurance is a boring industry. It's not a public. There's no tonight, John Jones out of Minnesota wrote 42 different policies and collected 6. Watch the way he signed this contract. Oh, wow, the highlight of the top 10 plays of who said, no one's going to do a top 10 plays of insurance. It's just not going to happen. So the fact that there's an entertainment aspect of sports that we don't have in business and real estate and insurance and tech, no one's that interested on the entertainment side. In football and sports it is. So at one point I would have said, wow. But once I was 30 years old and I kind of had become a professional competitor worker, I saw myself as equal as a lot of these guys.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I got one last question before we wrap up with a quick game. And that is, to people listening or watching around the world, men, women, at any age, right? We're going into a challenging time in the recession for a lot of people, right? Depending on, what side of the fence you're on, playing the opportunity. And a lot of people, especially in this generation, get swayed by social media, people, influences like never before, right? I mean, it was challenging, like you said, in your 20s to figure it out. Imagine if you had all these, influxes of ideas and do this and do that, click the link below, the webinar, the this, the that. What advice would you have to men or women around the world and maybe pursuing their dream, their vision, maybe that younger version of a Pat who's looking for answers and trying to win, not short-term, but long-term? What would, PBD's best piece of advice be to sort of find your lane and play the long game to win be?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So everybody watching this falls in one of 3 different places, okay? One is they're sitting on no cash right now. They're in a bad situation with their house that's upside down. They bought their house at the worst possible time, which means they're $300,000 down or $200,000 down. They got fired. They were in real estate. They were in mortgages. They did not save. They're not prepared. So there's nothing they can do to take advantage of this crisis because they have no drive. nothing. They're not sitting on any cash. Okay. If you're that person, you have to play a different game. Then there's the other person that plays it always safe, okay? Whether the economy is good, bad, ugly, it's always like this, okay? And, hey, so many opportunities. No. What if? Hey, crisis is happening. Oh, my gosh. What if? And they just kind of play this game. No problem. Or the person that's sitting right now on a lot of cash and they've been preparing for this moment for 8 years, for 9 years, for 10 years, for whatever. Okay, so the first one, guess what? You can't do nothing about this season right now to take advantage of it. You have to prepare for the next one that's probably going to come up in the next 5 to 10 years, which means what? Which means
stack cash.
All of those people that were saying cash is trash 2 years ago are now saying cash is king again, right? Yep. So it's so funny that the cash is trash community has converted into the cash is king community today.
Right.
Now, the tough part is, Omar, to stay disciplined to realize cash is king 2 years before cash is king.
Right.
That's what's hard, right? And then to deploy and say, let's go for it. If you're trying to add another zero to your net worth, you're worth 10 grand, you want to go to 100,000, that's a big deal, 10 to 100 grand. I remember the first time I had $100,000 in the bank. That's a lot of money, right? Or you have 100 grand, you want to go to $1 million, adding a zero. Person that's got $100,000 in the bank saying, you mean to tell me I'm going to have $1 million? That's a very big deal. So that's the next strategy to go to, you got $1 million and want to go to 10 to 100, 100 to $1 billion, billion to 10 billion. It doesn't matter. You're all chasing that next, you're in the pursuit of the next zero, right? Okay. So the first group, find another person that did it right. Go bring as much value as you can to that person that's an up-and-coming star. What do I mean by an up-and-coming star? Right now, Elon Musk is looking for a CEO of Twitter, right? I talked to a bunch of different people that are very close to him. Most likely, you know who's going to end up becoming the CEO of Twitter? A guy named David Sacks. You know why David Sacks is most likely going to end up becoming the CEO of Twitter? He trusts David the most. David's been close to him. And eventually guys like that end up hiring people that they trust, because you mean to tell me I'm going to give the company to somebody that I just spent $44 billion of my money to a stranger and say, hey, yeah, you go ahead, you do it. Yeah, I trust you. It's not going to happen. It's going to be the close. So I imagine if Elon is 38 years old, 42 years old, 36 years old, and you go work for a guy like that, and you know this guy's going to be somebody. Well, the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, say he doesn't work out with you and Elon. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to learn a ton from being around Elon for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. That's going to help you where? Elsewhere. How many people from the PayPal mafia build all these other companies, the Jack Dorsey's, the Peter Thiel, the Elon Musk? All of these guys work together because they knew, Reid Hoffman, I want to say, all of these guys became billionaires. So many. PayPal sold for only $1.5 billion. PayPal only sold for $1.5 billion. You know how much of it went to Elon? 180. Out of the 180, he put $100 million into SpaceX, 70 into Tesla, 10 into the solar company that he put. But it's not like he got a bunch of money. So if it's $1.5 billion, and that $1.5 billion was split between him, Thiel, Hoffman, all these other guys, one became Yelp, one became Twitter, one became what? What if you're in that PayPal mafia? Yeah. So if I'm in the first category, man, I'm going to make a list of 30 names that you can say, this guy's worth 5. I think he's going to be worth 100 one day. There's something unique about this guy.
Let me get in.
Let me get close to these guys. I want to get into that gang. If I ever wanted to make it in Hollywood, this is the first thing I would do if I wanted to get into Hollywood. I would make a list of guys that make movies together, a crew. Guys and girls that make movies together. I would say, okay, these guys make movies together. These guys make movies together. These guys make movies together. Man, I'm not these guys, but I love these 8 guys. Let me find out exactly what I need to do to go here. What acting school do they go to? Where are they out on Tuesday nights? What club do they go to? What I want to get in, because once I go in, listen, just give me 2 lines. And then boom, kill it with the 2 lines. Hey, Pat, we got 4 lines for you for next. Awesome. Hey, you got a good role. 5th part, you got 28 lines. No shit. Yeah, $200,000. Hey, you're going to get a part. No way, yes. And then now it's like other people are seeing you.
Compound effect.
So if you're group 1, find that one community and group to get into if you are in group 1, okay? If you're in group 2, you can play in fear for the rest of your life. You're just going to live a regular life. You have to kind of make a decision to overcome some of the ways that some of your philosophies and your identity. There's a reason why you have an identity flaw and that identity issue that you're so afraid. You need to kind of take some risk if you're comfortable. If you're not, keep living your safe life. It is what it is. The other person that's got money, you have an opportunity right now to add the additional zero. And not only that, you have an opportunity right now to kind of, maybe even add more than that, because we have not had this kind of an economy in 13 years. You have to realize we had 129 months of economic expansion, which is 10 years, 10 and a half years. That's never happened in the history of the U.S. economy. And then some of the people are like, oh, this is going to last forever. Boom, boom, boom. This year, oh, real estate's not going to drop. Really? Yeah, okay, no problem. Sure, you keep believing that real estate's not going to drop. The Wall Street Journal yesterday, experts are expecting a very difficult time in real estate in 2023. Of course it's going to happen. You can't just increase the rates thinking I'm going to be able to afford the same mortgage payment. The average person doesn't buy a house based on a loan amount. They buy it based on a mortgage payment. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities. $4 million homes will be $3 million homes. I'll give you a perfect example. This building down here, I won't give the name because I may buy this building. This building down the street here, I'll tell you about it afterwards, is a $54 million building. The company was public. They decide to go private. The owner becomes a billionaire, okay? To a billionaire, a $54 million building is worth what? It's just $54 million, $2 billion, right? So 8 months ago, I go meet with these guys, and they're asking for $32 million bucks. So they just want to get rid of it because it's not helping them out with their new investors. They said, hey, you make an offer for $32 million, we'll sell it to you. I said, no, I'm at 26. So don't even make the offer. It's a waste of your time. No problem. You know what call I?
And you could do it at 32, but
100%. Yeah.
You're just playing.
So they said 26. I said, no, I'm convinced market's going down. They called me yesterday. Listen, man, I'm not interested. Hey, Pat, just listen. I'm telling you, I'm not interested. Can you just take the damn call? 30 seconds. If you make a $20 million offer right now, they'll sell it to you. So guess what I said? $15 million.
Just for the sake of sport.
Because you could have said yes and you didn't.
Yeah.
The name he mentioned when I first walked in here, it's a big realtor guy, okay? I made an offer on one of his buildings, one of his houses at $21.4 million. He comes back, he lowers it from $25 million to $24.2 million. I made an offer for $21.4 million. He comes down only $500,000. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I run into him in an event in Miami. He says to me, oh man, that could have been your house. I said, no. I found out what you sold it for. You sold it for $17 million. You could have gotten an additional $4.5 million, but you played cocky. And I told you, don't call me again for lowering it $500,000. I'm not doing a deal with a guy like you. And he walks, and he said, oh, you remember that? I said, I saw it on Real Deal. You sold it for $17 million. Here it is. Oh, shit. Yeah, you're right. Well, you effed up. Cost yourself $4.5 million to the seller, and make sure the seller doesn't find out because you cost him $4.5 million, and you cost yourself around $250,000 in commissions. What's the moral of the story? It's a great time if you got cash, because it's a weird time if you got cash. So many weird opportunities. So some people say, how could you do that to take advantage of this? It's not to take advantage of this. You would do the same thing if you stay disciplined for 20 years to save money for a moment like this. It's probably because you've been waiting for this moment so you can capitalize. Well, it's here. $500,000 watches are selling for $210,000 today. Okay? This is just the beginning. Because one of the things our friend, what's his name? He's your best friend, Jerome Powell, right? One of the things he's made it very clear is what? They are not lowering the rates this year. They're going to keep it the way it is until inflation gets to what? 2 points. Okay, to do that, what does he need to do? He needs to keep increasing. The more he increases, what happens to a 30-year fix? It keeps going higher and higher and higher. You think that's going to be, right now, year over year, you know how much refinance business is down? Do you know the number? Year over year. If you were doing 100 loans a month a year ago, correct me if I'm wrong here, this is Wall Street Journal data. If you're doing 100 loans a month a year ago, what do you think you're doing today?
20?
You're right. 86% you're down, which means you're doing 14 a month. So let me break down the math for you. If you were making $100,000 a month a year ago doing loans, what are you making right now?
20-ish.
$14,000 a month.
14, yeah.
That's insane. And they're saying he's going to continue increasing rates. What's going to happen in real estate? Yeah. Well, there's going to be a lot of great opportunities. So so again, if the first group is sitting here saying, oh my God, I feel like shit, I feel like this. The great thing about business is, man, we all have moments where we miss it. I missed out on everything being discounted on 9/11. I missed out. I was spending most of my money gambling, casinos, partying, clubbing. And I said, I'm going to be ready for the next one. And I was ready for the one in '08, and I was ready for the one in COVID, and I am ready for this one here. So this is the whole reason we're going back to the interview of long-term thinking. If you're thinking long-term, you're going to get plenty of chances.
Beautiful. And then playing this quick game at the end, it's called First Things First. The way the game works is I'm just going to rifle off a quick word or phrase. You tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. I don't know if you remember this game from last time.
Yeah.
And then we're done. All right. The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice. So think of it like a word relation game. You're familiar with this? First word is Kobe Bryant.
Obsessed.
The key to a successful marriage or relationship.
The work you do 18 months before getting married, like the due diligence you do before and asking the questions before you get married. You know, how you get married. You know, once you're married, you're screwed because you're in it. Yeah. So now you got to really make it work. But if you're not married yet, it's what you do before getting married that matters, because that sets the expectations up front.
The biggest lesson you learned in Monaco when the deal closed, or most profound thought you had in Monaco?
I love Monaco. I love Monaco. I love Saint-Tropez. I love everything about that area. It's just that every time I go there, I'm so happy. I'm smiling like this every second when I'm in Monaco.
It's the most billionaires in the world live there, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's smaller than Central Park, by the way. That's how small the place is. Smaller than Central Park. And you know what's an interesting fact? Here's a crazy fact for you. Do you know what's the highest life expectancy country in the world?
Monaco?
Monaco, 89.5.
People live good there.
People live good there. They live a long life.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have great health insurance. They have everything, but they live a long life.
I love that. 4 would be the biggest misconception you had about, big money. Maybe that, when you were a kid dreaming about like a 9-figure situation, what's the biggest misconception you have being on this side of the fence?
Biggest misconception. The concept of more money, more problems. So some people are afraid that when you have more money, you have more problems. That is a misconception. You don't have more problems because you have smarter brains around you that handle each of those individual problems. So it's not more money, more problems. It's more money, more advisors.
Best advice you've ever been given in business?
This advice, I think, man, this changes very often. It's different at different phases of life. So it's different when I was 21 getting started versus 25 versus 29 about to start a company versus, I'll give you one of them. Before starting a company, how about that? I'm 29 years old. The first person that knows that I'm about to start a company, one of the first 2 people that knows, it's this man named Bill. So we meet in San Bernardino at this breakfast joint, like a Denny's, slightly better quality food. And I sit down and I tell him, I said, listen, I know exactly what I want to do. I know what our cause is. This is our mission statement: saving America by bringing back the free enterprise system and hope to American families. I said to him, I want to put an event. I want to dress like George Washington. I want my wife to dress like Lady Liberty. I want to have a 40-foot Mount Rushmore on the stage. I want to bring Reagan's son to speak. I want to bring somebody from the Claremont Institute. I want to talk about the Star-Spangled Banner with Dudley Rutherford. I want to get everybody to realize we're going on a big-ass movement to make everybody realize the American dream starts with entrepreneurship, not homeownership. That's what I want to do. He says, that's your mission statement? I said, yeah. He says, I wouldn't launch it yet. When are you planning on telling people? I said, this week. He said, don't do it. I said, why not? He said, if you launch a mission and a vision this big and your people don't see, because you're sitting up here saying, one day we're going to have presidents come to our event, senators, the #1 comedian, Kobe Bryant, all these guys, because I did this video dressed as Doc from Back to the Future. And this is like 2010. And I said, one day presidents will come to the event. One day Kobe Bryant, one day the best comedians will come to the event. He says, don't do it unless you're fully committed to it, because your people will look at you as a phony. Just scared the crap out of me, because it's a lot of pressure now, right? Because you have to come through. So I'm like, I'm not starting it yet. I'm not telling people this yet. So I stepped away. Nobody knows I'm going through this conversation with this man. And I walked away and I said, yeah, I'm not ready yet. 90 days later, I said, I want to do part 2 breakfast with you. We go back. I said, I'm doing it. He said, so you're committed to it? I said, yes. This is, I want to be at the event. Anyways, so I did it. I announced it. And then the moment I announced it and I gave everybody a shirt with all the vision, 4 things on it, right? And I said, we're going for it. Well, that night, I've never slept with that kind of anxiety and panic in my body as that night, because officially the world knows what the vision is. So it was one of the best advice, because before you go up there and talk a big game about what you're going to do, if it comes out of your mouth that you don't come through, what you're really doing is everybody is sitting out there saying he's just a talker, not a doer. So I don't know if that advice made any sense, but at that phase of my life, very valuable advice.
And the last one is, what's the biggest limiting belief you had to overcome along your journey thus far?
You know, I'll tell you one of them. This is a big one, okay? I'll tell you one of them. One of them is thinking everybody has that 1, 2, or 3 people in your mind that, man, if I don't get that person's blessing or endorsement, I'm never going to make it. It's not true. You want me to unpack that, or does that kind of make sense to
If
you?
you guys got the time, because I know we're tight on time here, but
So here's what I mean by that. When a person says, you know, you're sitting there, you're like, man, that guy has to give me the blessing. But I got to get his confirmation.
Permission.
I got to get, not permission. It's more like, you know, hey, if I don't interview that guy, if I don't get that carrier, if I don't get that investment from that guy, if I don't get that person to sit on my board, if I don't get that person as an advisor, if I don't get that person, you know, it's not going to happen for us. It's not true. Okay. Because the way life works is in the following way. Here's what I've learned. If you have a sincere vision and you're constantly making progress towards that vision, I don't know why this is the case. The people you need for that appear, if it's real.
and if you're committed,
It's such an interesting dynamic. You know, for the longest time, I would go to New York and I would do 6 interviews over 2 days. So imagine like you're preparing for 1 interview, and imagine doing 3 of them and 3 2-hour interviews. Okay, so boom, 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 your brain is fried. And then I'm doing conference call at night for my sales team. And in the morning, I'm going on 4 hours of sleep, and I got to do 3 more interviews the next day. And then I got to go to another event to speak to 600 people. So it's like you're going through, it's like, oh my God. And I'm the booker. People are not coming to Dallas. Who goes to Dallas to do interviews? So versus the last 2 years or the last 18 months, the types of people that call, like if I told you who was here 5 days ago spending 5 hours with me, you wouldn't believe it. If I told you just 5 days ago who was here.
Who was it?
I mean, you wouldn't believe it if I told you, but you know who it is. One of the most powerful people in the world.
Could we get a hint? Quick.
Yeah, he lives in America. He's a very a big hint I just gave you, right? But the point is now they're reaching out. So that one person you thought you needed is now calling you. It's a very just go validate that you're a player in the marketplace, and those 8 people that you thought you needed, you're gonna one day say, I can't even believe I was hung up. You know, I was hung up on that one guy or that 2 guys. No, you're good. Market's gonna validate you.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pat. I appreciate that. For you guys listening around the world, make sure to follow Pat in the link in the description down below if you guys don't already. Until next time, live strong, live with passion, and like Pat mentioned, make sure to go out and live that vision over the long term. We'll see you guys in the next inspiring episode. Peace.